All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining our last session here for our prep exam. We're going to start off today with business and then move over with finance. And without any further ado, I'd like to introduce Michael. Here. All right, here's Michael Bio here, and he will take us through the business. Michael, the floor is yours.
Hi, good morning, everyone. So happy to be here, and thank you for inviting me to, share my basic knowledge on the business part of the exam. Um, I'm not the expert for this, but I have the basic knowledge. But however, yes, I highly recommend for you to go back and review the tools that we are suggesting for preparation for the exam. So without further, next slide, please. So on my task to do the business knowledge, so uh, this topic is actually it's a big section. It's like a mini MBA, and for those of you who have MBA degrees, then I think this would be your advantage. And there are a few areas that we need to probably a few of to focus on, like strategic functions, strategic planning, marketing functions, and how to conduct the how to apply marketing analysis in the healthcare business, this kind of stuff. And there are 18 questions, which is 9% of the exam. And these are the following areas that are covered in the exam and that you need to prepare and you need to have a knowledge on this. The knowledge of strategic planning process, how to use the information available to us, how to analyze and how to predict those information that are available, like managerial, epidemiology, basic statistics, such as those and a knowledge of business planning, the processes. So, strategic planning also, which is, need to go back to your mission and vision and the various approaches such as, environmental assessment, organization direction, formulation of strategy and implementation, those areas. Business planning, to know how to when you're doing a service line enhancement, how would you know how do you need to know how to do your processes, your implementation, your business plan, your probably SWOT analysis, justification, those kind of stuff, your financial and budget analysis related to your expansion. Knowledge of basic contract. So the basic contract is mostly you have to remember about verbal, written, or implied. So is that still an agreement? So those are the areas that we need to probably you need to probably consider, and the ability to differentiate the various items or different elements in the contract. So those legal terms there. So you need to have at least a basic knowledge on those to apply to the healthcare business contracting. Then the knowledge of impact socioeconomic. So this is related to health disparity. So I would highly recommend for you if you can go to the ACHE website and review the policy. I encourage you to do that because there's a lot of health disparity policy in the website for the ACHE before you take the exam. Sometimes they take questions on there. So um, it related to the language level, literacy, cultural values, those kind of stuff. So, yeah, so that's my knowledge on those four areas. On next slide, please. Okay, so this is the first question. So, first question is, which of the following is uncontrollable factor in a marketing plan? So let me give you a tip on this. Although the question and the answer is probably very evident or very obvious to you, my tip is go through the selections, because you need to still go through the all selections even though you know the answer, because it's really important to go over all the selection, because there might be some nuisance or the best answers there. So don't just, oh, this is it. But my tip is go through all the questions and selections. That's my tip there. So what are what's the answers that they are saying here?
A. Everybody is saying A right now, Michael.
And that is,
Economic environment.
let's go through a basic, for economic environment, right? So are you, yeah, that's correct. You're not able to control the economic environment, right? For the budget, you're able to control your budget, right? Personnel staffing, you're able to control that. And the D, creativity, does it make sense, the creativity in the question? Right. So something that you need you to deliberate the selection before you finalize your answer. So creativity, I don't think creativity is related to to marketing plan factors, right? So maybe if you're already doing your strategy, yes. So and the answer is A, right? So let's see the answer. And correct, it's A. So the next slide, please. So the element most critical to the successful design and implementation of an executive decision support system in a healthcare organization is availability of software for updating the database, maintaining data confidentiality, involvement of top management, or availability of network computer equipment. So let's analyze the question. So this is talking about executive decision support system, correct? And what is asking about the executive decision support system? So it's asking about how to successfully implement how to successfully implement it, right? So um, then let's go through the different questions and do some elimination. Let's go to letter D. So do you think availability of network computer is the most critical? So look at the wording there, most critical. That's asking the most critical. So I'm seeing answer there. C, yeah. What else? So let's just see the topic. It's asking for the most critical successful design for the executive to use in their the decision making, such as strategic decision making, anything that is related to the executive decision making. So like you know, in order for them to have a better decision making. So um, availability of software for updating the database. Do you think this is critical? Maybe, right? You need to have a software to have the data that you need. Maintaining data confidentiality, I don't think that is related to that, so we will drop that off in the selection. Then involvement of top management, yes, I would probably leave that to my selection. And D is availability of network computer equipment. Well, that's given that you have to have a computer. So the best selection there is, and the survey says C. That you got it all. I think our participants are ready now. um, Next slide, please. So, what is the fundamental reason for joint ventures between healthcare organizations? A, they are allowed by EMTALA. B, they are formed because they offer legal routes to cooperative efforts. C, they are permitted as a means to share clinical and quality advancements. And D, they are created to lower overhead costs. So what are we talking about this on this question? It's about joint ventures, right? So what is joint ventures? So you need to have a basic knowledge on joint ventures, So it's the different topics like joint ventures, mergers, acquisitions, because those will come out in the questions. They will really give scenarios on those areas, and you should be able to differentiate the difference on those. So joint ventures. So what is a joint venture? So it is a collaboration, right, between two or more entities to achieve specific healthcare goals. So, my question to you is joint venture a merger or acquisition? So, venture is less than a merger or acquisition. That's how I know, based on the basic knowledge that we need to know. So, let's go to the selection. So, they are allowed by IMTALA. How is IMTALA related to the joint ventures? What is IMTALA? IMTALA is making sure that we're stabilizing the patients who shows up in the ER before transferring them to a different facility, correct? That's the law. So is it related to joint venture? I will eliminate that. I will throw it out from the selection. So they are formed because they offer legal routes to cooperative efforts. Look at the wordings there. There's a high road key there, key terms, cooperative efforts. So I will leave that in my selection. So and C, they are permitted as a means to share clinical and quality advancement. Yeah, maybe that is one of the uh, effect of having a joint ventures. I will not leave that. I will not cross that off. And D, they are created to a lower overhead cost. It's another advantage of that, but it is not the fundamental reason. So the question here is the fundamental reason of a joint venture. And the answer is D. Yeah. So just wanna reiterate the importance or basic knowledge of joint ventures, mergers, and acquisition in this question. Okay. So next question. So the next question is when contracting for services, an organization typically finds the best value when a little bit of tip on this question. It's wordy. It's lengthy. There's a lot. So probably you're already at the 100 questions in your exam, and you tend to just pass it through. So I please don't do that. Always, you take a break. 30 seconds break before you answer this type of question because you have to read all through it. That's my tip on that. So the selection is the organization creates an internal auditor position to oversee the service. B, a board member negotiates for discounted services. Um, C, the organization allows the prospective supplier to develop the contractual service expectation. There's a competition between several suppliers with proven performance and reputations. So this is I don't know I don't know the answer to this. So let's solve it together. So when contracting of a service for services, an organization typically finds the best value when so the organization creates an internal auditor position to oversee the service. I don't think so. We don't need internal auditor to do that, right? A board member negotiate for discounted price. Board member are not involved in this type of activities, right? They are at the higher level, so they don't negotiate this. So we will eliminate that. Then the organization allows the prospective supplier to develop the contractual service expectation. I would probably say maybe. And D, there is a competition between several suppliers with proven performance and reputation. So let's see what's the answer. Yes, because if you select different vendors, there's competition, and there's you're in the end you'll get more leverage, you get better pricing. So there's competition and better pricing for this. So that's my take on that. So next question, please. So this is about data gathering. So when data is scarce, the best method of forecasting is to use A, computer-based simulation step methods, B, time series analysis, C, econometric forecasting, D, qualitative techniques. Let's see, what do you think? What do you think from the participants? What's your answer here?
I didn't get anything in the chat yet from anybody for this question. Oh, one, B.
Mm-hmm. We got one there.
Anybody else?
B, C. So it's a mix of answers, right?
Yeah.
So, so the forecasting is one of the what do you call this? A part of strategic planning or in your budgeting. So you forecast or you use this type of method. So you gather data. So either qualitative or quantitative. So that this is what we do in our job, right? So let's go through this through the selection, computer-based simulations methods. Do you think this is applicable to forecasting in healthcare, computer-based simulation methods? Yeah, because these are probably the rules or algorithm that are embedded in the computer system, so to simulate methods. So I don't think that's applicable, so I will cross that out. Then time series analysis. So what's your basic knowledge of time series analysis? So this is more on statistics, right? The studies of time series and the econometric forecasting. So there's a nuisance there, forecasting and forecasting. So we're talking about forecasting here, but you see the selection C is more on econometric forecasting. This is primarily used by the economists to predict future economic events. So qualitative techniques, this is probably the right answer. So let's see what's the answer. And D. So we do this in our we do this in our daily life as healthcare leaders, right? When qualitative data is not enough, when you pulled out data from your tableau or whatever, it's not enough. You go out, right? You go out from your office and ask questions, observe, and that you need to add to your to your findings or to your or to support your argument. So it's always when data is scarce, go to the qualitative techniques when you have to go observe and what's happening in there in that area. So you need both the qualitative and quantitative data to have a much better case when you are presenting some case to your executives. Next question. So, most products and services enter a period of decline. Unless compelling reasons prevail, continuing a declining product or service is costly because A, it increased turnover of personnel will occur. B, continuation will set an undesirable precedent concerned with maintaining the status quo. C, the program will consume a disproportionate amount of management time and delay the search for replacement. And D, the organization will be perceived as being insensitive to the marketplace. So let's see what's the answer there for what are the selections from our participants. So this is more this question is related to uh, you know uh, product or product cycle. So you need to have a basic knowledge on a product or service cycle on phases for this. In this is more on like
Mike,
the
all the responses are coming through. We didn't have any when you asked. We have C and D.
okay, good. We have C and D. So okay. So Yeah, so this question revolves around knowledge on the product or service cycle, like the phases of service cycle, and it relates to the consumers also. Like, are you an early adopter or late adopters? So if you're late adopters, what is the impact to your organization? Something like that. So let's go through the selections and the answers is mostly C and D, right, Shirliva?
That's correct. Yes,
Yeah. So that's what the selection is. So increased turnover of personnel will occur. So what do you think? Uh, will this impact? Is this a reasonable reason of declining product or service is costly because it will increase turnover personnel will occur? I don't think so. It's for me it's not the main reason. So continuation will set an undesirable precedent concerned with maintaining the status quo. What do you mean by that? It's just for me. It's just a nuisance, just a confusing selection. the and the C program will consume a disproportionate amount of management time and delay the search for a replacement. That's probably the high road selection answer there. So I would retain that as one of my best selection. And the organization will be perceived as being insensitive to the marketplace. Can be, some probably uh, employees or the staff, because we have antiquated technology. We are not replacing it, so it can be perceived as insensitive to the marketplace. But that's not the high road answer that um, can can give us a compelling reason to be costly. So what is our answer there? Survey says, next slide, and the program will consume a disproportionate amount of management time and delay the search for a replacement. This is true, right? Because if we have antiquated technology and we're trying to replace, we're already behind the technology that is like, for example, in the lab. If we are like 10 or 15 years using the equipment and we're looking for a replacement for that, it will, it's gonna be challenging because we are at the phase where there's more technology available and it's hard to choose. Actually, you're going to be having a problem with that. So next question. I got 8 minutes. Next question. Before submitting a business plan for a new clinical service line to the governing body, the plan should be developed by recommendations from the Finance Committee on the basis of its estimate of income for the budget year. B, heads of the profit centers, considering each center's anticipated revenues and expenses, with the CEO pulling it all together. C, key executives after receiving recommendations from the heads of operating divisions and key participants and key physician leaders. And D, the heads of the operating divisions with the CEO putting it all together. So the answer here is I can see it's obvious, right? So, but we don't let CEO put all together, right? We still need the recommendations from all the from all the key stakeholders. So and it's more collaborative. The letter C is more collaborative. That's what there's the selection that the participants are selecting, which is the next answer, which is I think the right answer. The next slide, please. What's the right answer for this? C. Yep. So because just a tip that I can share to you when I went to attend the review class in Georgia for the ACHE offered by ACHE, I had John Griffith, the author of the book that we are using to prepare for the class. He advised us if you see the word P in the selections like the physician's involvement, that might be the best answers because they are key to the decision making. So just a tip. Next question, please. So hospital systems have many customers. Of the forementioned groups of people or organization below, which is the least likely to be listed as a key targets in marketing campaign? So I would caution you on this question. This is a negative question, right? So be careful with the questions with questions with least likely, except, all except, those kind of stuff. So I would caution you on that to please analyze that properly and select the best answer for that. So it's asking for the least likely to be listed as a key targets in marketing campaign. So uh, we're seeing answers as I think I guess I want
See,
as C, yeah. So so if you will rephrase this question, all of the following selections are the key targets in marketing campaign except, right? So except uh, A is buyers. They are the key targets, right? Caregiver exchanges also a key target. C, state government. I don't think so. And D is the key targets. And I think our participants are correct. It's C, which is, let's see, it's if it's really C. Yes. And the next question. Environmental assessment or environmental scanning is a formal surveillance review of the organization and its environment. All but one of the following should be taken into account by the planning unit. So another negative question, right? All but the following. So be careful on those type of question, please. So when you're taking the exam. So A, community demography, epidemiology and economy, trends in physician availability, C, niche strategies, and D, patient or community attitudes. So, what are those things that you cannot, that you are, you know, you need to consider in your environmental assessment?
everybody's selecting C, niche strategies.
Yeah, niche strategies. So if you observe in the selections A, B, and C, these are all the forces that affects healthcare environment, right? So this is in the first few pages of Griffith, the book for Griffith. It's all there. The different environmental in your environmental assessment or scanning. These are all the uncontrollable forces. So the niche marketing strategies, it's just a marketing strategy targeting the specific segment or specific population of of your marketing plan. So the answer is C, niche strategies, right? I think our participants are ready to take the exam. The last question. uh, a healthcare facility can best meet its social and economic goals by uh, A, developing a realistic and coordinated approach to long range planning, B, devoting most of its efforts to the development of efficient operational practices, and C, having a good public relations program which will focus the facility in the community, and D, providing all reimbursable services desired by the community. So what are we seeing there as an answer?
A, a lot of A's in the chat here.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So this is the social and economic goals. This is more on health disparity, right? The topic on health disparity. So how can we achieve this goal? By A, developing a realistic and coordinated approach to long-range plan? Probably, yeah. Yeah, I would not eliminate that. B, devoting most of its efforts to the development of efficient operational practices. Nah, this is more on operation side, you know. Um, C, having a good public relations program which will focus the facility in the community. It can help, you know, if you good relations with the with outside with the outside within your community, and providing all reimbursable services desired by the community. That's hard, right? I don't think we can. That's hard to provide all the reimbursable services desired by the community. It's I don't know if there's a health system who's a or organization who is able to provide all these services to the community. So, and the answer says, survey says, mm, yep, realistic and coordinated approach to long range planning. So, that where you involve your plans, future plans related to social and economic goals or related to health disparity. So, I think that's the last question for me. Do we have more time to do the supplemental or no more?
But
Good.
Michael, if you want to buzz through those really quickly, we'll send them out post meeting as well. But you want to buzz through them a little bit quicker,
Sure.
maybe 5 to 10. There's about 8 or so, I think, in there.
Yep,
Why
we
don't we
can
bring
do that.
those up? Yeah, why don't we bring
Okay.
those up, Jaime?
Hey, okay. Question number one. Let's do this. The division of a market into subsets of consumers with similar needs and wants enables the marketers to focus their marketing efforts on consumers most likely to buy a product or use a service. A. Segmentation. Needed. B. Need. C. Want. D. Demand. People are saying A. Okay. And survey says, what's the answer there? Yep, segmentation. So you are trying to segment the your marketing plan and see the focus of your plan of or targeting the right customers. So that's segmentation. So great. Number two, a long-term formal and mutually beneficial relationship between two or more parties to pursue a set of agreed upon goals or to meet a critical business need while remaining independent organizations. So is it a strategic partnership, strategic alliance, strategic affiliation, or a strategic merger? So I remember I was telling you about this a while ago, right? Merger acquisitions, uh, you know, um, joint ventures. So we need to see the differences on those because when I took the exam, it really confused me. So we're seeing what answers there? A, right?
And C, A
C,
and C.
A, and C. Okay. And the answer is B, strategic alliance. So would recommend you to, go over all over this, the topics or topics and get the difference and know the basic knowledge on the differences on those topics. So next question, please. Innovation that creates a new market by discovering new categories of customers, eventually displacing the existing market. Buyer behavior, product life cycle, disruptive innovation, marketing innovation. I think I slightly touched this a while ago.
All C's, all
I'll
C's.
see, I'll see. Yeah. Okay. And it's disruptive innovation. That's right. Next question. Assimilation of the vertical components of an organization through greater internal control and coordination. Vertical integration, horizontal integration, conglomerate integration, or upward integration? We're seeing
A's.
A's, uh-huh.
Look like vertical integration is what the majority is
Yep.
saying in the chat.
Looks like we're saying vertical integration here. And what is the right answer? Yes, A. So just a tip of advice, just an advice, please look on both the vertical and horizontal integration. Get you need to know what are the examples, because that's how it is written in the exam. They will give you example, is this a vertical integration or horizontal integration? So just think of some example for that. Okay, next question please. A systematic process for envisioning a desired future and translating that vision into broadly defined goals or objectives in a sequence of steps to achieve them. Trend analysis, situation analysis, strategic planning, or surveys research.
Strategic planning, everyone is saying.
Great. And let's see the answer. Yes, it's C. So, again, under strategic planning, please know the different stages of the strategic planning, you on how to get there and how to get to your goals. So, what are different stages that you need to, incorporate in your strategic planning so that to achieve your goals. So, please know those steps. So, next question. Use of data from the past and present to analyze trends and predict the future. Is it trend? Is it surveys, focus group, or forecasting? And we're seeing,
Forecasting, D.
and the answer
Mhm.
says D, yes, forecasting. That's correct. And the next question. Contracting party's failure or refusal to perform its obligations specified in a contract is malfeasance, defamation, tort, or breach of contract. We're
D.
seeing
D, breach of
D.
contract.
Yep. And the answer is D. So the malfeasance and the malfeasance is a question related to the healthcare, think healthcare law. So you might probably, you know, know that the what is that? Something like that. So the defamation, tort, and breach of contracts are all related to contracting. So next slide, please. Next question. Oh, that's it. So that's it for me, and thank you very much for having me today. And I wish you all good luck for those of you who for all of you who will be taking the exam. And I'm looking forward to seeing the 5-letter your credentials in your last name in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael. All right, we're going to move on to our next session with finance, and Jaime is going to bring those slides up for us. All right. Kevin, the floor is yours.
Okay, we're gonna start on the finance section. Sherlivia and I are gonna tag team on this one. Let's just buzz through this slide, actually, if you don't mind. Keep going. So I think you guys have seen Sherlivia in the past, and she's here's her bio once again. She presented a couple of weeks ago, I know, and she's been leading you guys in at each week. So thank you, Sherlivia. And next slide, please. And this is my bio. I'm also part of this team, leading this team, but on the outside. But here's my bio. All right, so next slide. Finance. So finance is pretty a few things in business. Obviously, there's the financial accounting principles need to analyze and interpret financial reports. A lot of you who may be in leadership, you may be asked to do monthly operation reports, how things went on your specific departments. There's the high level of the people who are closing the financials, whether it's the accounting manager, the controller, the CFO, they're all involved. There's budget principles, fixed versus flexible, flexible being like your units of service that may affect like a nursing department, which may for that department may be like heads at midnight, patients in the inpatient beds for the night, or in lab we just how many tests that run through that department may determine like a flex budget for that, or and things of that sort. Capital budgeting, the big typically 5,000 or more are per item are capital items for equipment, as you guys probably know who may be involved with that. Reimbursement methodologies, it's managed care models, whether it's a fee for service, managed care, lots of different reimbursement models and different payers, from the federal government and Medicare to the state with Medicaid, to local managed Medicaid, which most counties in California may have, or other parts of the country, to traditional Blue Cross, United Healthcare, et cetera, and different contracts healthcare facilities may have involved with that. Productivity measures, we just kind of talked about that, but that's more like cost accounting. How much does it cost per patient day, or a little bit with productivity as well. And then just internal controls, like how, well, somebody's getting reimbursed for this. Well, who's signing off on that? Or, thresholds involved with different approvals. Maybe I'm a director and my threshold's 20K, and in an organization, if you're a VP, you can sign up to 100K, but the CFO needs to sign off on anything greater than that in a healthcare organization. So there's different internal controls just to make sure we kind of keep fraud and abuse out there. So, Shirley, I'm going to pass this one to you to just kind of run through, so we kind of tag team on different slides. So go ahead.
Thank you, Kevin. So revenue generation in healthcare, a lot of our revenue starts with registration, of course, in the billing cycle, but also with coding, and then strategies around that with pricing. So we'll talk a little bit about that. How to justify our business plan. So that makes a big difference. And when we're talking about new projects, what our stakeholders are and the support we need, potential impacts and consequences of financial decision making on operations, right? Everything we do within healthcare, whether it's operations, whether it's human resource, quality of care, that all has some type of financial impact and decision that we have to make, right? Healthcare is still a business. Asset management and depreciation, that's huge when it comes to your accounting principles and how you show the financial stability of your organizations. Your assets is a big part of that. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Financing and including funding sources, and your process of obtaining credit, right? Your bond ratings, those are all essential components for your financial healthiness in healthcare, and something you look at, right? It does have some impact on your buying power. So your philanthropy and foundation work, those are just as important when it comes to how we manage our finances in healthcare, and then our supply chain system structure and processes, all that. Everything we do, right, equates to finances. So with that said, I'll hand it back over to Kevin.
Great. So we're going to run through some questions. We're going to leave about 15 minutes for some closing, since this is the end of the 5 Saturday series. But we'll start buzzing through these and see how it goes. So first question. During the investigation of merger or acquisition, why would it be prudent for a healthcare executive to obtain advice from someone other than the internal legal counsel? A, regular legal counsel may not be objective. B, external legal counsel may have experience in joint ventures. C, external legal counsel has the ability to provide the service in a more economic and timely manner. Or D, specialized expertise is needed in this area.
So right now, Kevin, we had A came from our, sorry, A and D. Sorry. Yeah, that came from the participants. So we have 2 selections here for this particular answer from our participants.
Okay, so regular legal counsel may not be objective. There could be some biases there. External legal counsel may have experience in joint ventures. A lot of legal teams, depending on the size of the organization, may farm out, if that's a fair word, different pieces of legal advice, depending on the size of the organization. And then external legal counsel has the ability to provide. Yeah, so D is, it seems like specialized expertise in needed area, which is kind of similar to that joint venture. So let's see the answer.
Mm. And I have
D.
Oh, I'm sorry, Kevin. I was going to say mergers and acquisitions. It's a complex, it has a lot of regulatory, requirements when it comes to mergers and acquisitions, our Stark laws, our anti-kickbacks. Like you really need someone specialized in those areas to really be able to give the right legal counsel. So I think that's why D is probably the most appropriate answer
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, especially in a small organization, you may just have a few legal leads, your VP of legal and maybe an associate or two. And, but yeah, for sure, that deep down, drill down, specialized expertise. Moving on. Ratio of output, we already showed the answer there. Ratio of output input is a measure of liquidity, process, productivity, or the work of environment. And C is productivity is the answer. So sorry to jump the gun on that one. Liquidity, that's more of a cash flow thing. Process, productivity. What's your unit of service on the input, and what's the output of how much maybe productivity you earn? So fair enough on that one. Let's move on to the next one. A hospital that continuously assesses the interests of the community and searches for ways to meet these interests can be described as predatory, market-oriented, market-optimized, or differentiated. If I'm seeing this correctly, I'm seeing B, sounding pretty good with a lot of B's here. Market-oriented, focused. Okay, let's see it. Let's see the answer. B. All right, let's go to the next question. Shalabi, why don't you start with this one?
Thank you. So the next question here. So net income as a percentage of gross revenues and return on equity are the two most important indicators of profitability, credit worthiness, market strength, or cash position. And I think in the chat here, I am seeing people selecting profitability here.
Seeing D, cash position, A, profitability. So keep in mind, yeah, I mean, cash position, profitability may affect your cash position, but we're getting a lot of profitability, and let's see the answer here. Obviously, credit worthiness is kind of not really. It would eventually get you there. So similar with your cash positions, similar with but profitability. I think that's solved right there on that answer. Just that elimination. Thank you so much. Next one. When reviewing assets, which element is the most important indication of an organization liquidity? Buildings and equipment, long-term investment, cash and short-term investments, and land and other assets. So liquidity, how quickly you can get cash in your hands. Could take a while for buildings and equipment to sell that. Long-term investments, probably some stuff you got to think about when you liquidate that. Land and other assets sounds pretty similar to buildings. So see, you guys are right on the money. Answer, please. All right, next slide, please. Shalavi, why don't you lead this one?
Sure. So financial statements are important in order to, so kind of think about that when it comes to financial statements. Identify, measure, record, or communicate in dollar terms the economic events and status of an organization. I definitely think here A, right, could be our answer here, but let's go and look at the others because A is talking about the core purpose of financial statements, accounting and finance. I think A really speaks to that. B, serve as a control mechanism for budgeting. I'm not sure about that because while financial statements inform budgeting and can help monitor variances, they are not the mechanism itself, right? So C, provide detailed financial information for control at the department level, or D, provide staffing guidelines to human resources and managers. So I think a lot of people in the chat have selected A, would definitely agree with that. Let's see if, yes, so A is definitely the answer here.
May I chime in for that,
Yes,
Chair
please.
Olivia? So
Mhm.
the financial statements, there are different types of financial statements. That's something probably that you need to, review, like the balance sheets, income statement, cash flows, or statement of changes to those statements. So just an FYI.
No, yeah, that's a good point. So, to look at the different financial statements in healthcare, because there's probably questions, or there could be questions about those different financial statements that Michael mentioned. Absolutely. All right. Next question.
In most cases, the most favorable financial audit opinion that an organization can receive is an qualified opinion, adverse opinion, disclaimer of opinion, and unqualified opinion. And just coming from a financial background, this one's always a tricky one, it sounds. I'm seeing D coming up from Jack. And A, qualified opinion. D, A. A. Yeah, this one's definitely a little deceiving. Um, the answer is a little bit opposite what you think. So let's bring that up. The answer. D, unqualified opinion. I'm just gonna read. It's like an unqualified audit opinion, often called a clean opinion, means the auditor has determined that a company's financial statements are presently fairly in all material respects according to the applicable GAAP. In case the auditors found no significant misstatements or concerns that would require additional information or adjustments. Coming from a finance background years ago, I always think it's qualified as well. So this one's tricky. So don't forget this one. Unqualified opinion when you're dealing with audits is a clean audit. So next
May
question, please. Oh,
May I
go
say
ahead.
something for like two
Please,
minutes?
please.
So these different answers, they're all of an audit finding that can be given to your organization, either qualified and adverse disclaimer of opinion or unqualified. But the best that you need to get is the unqualified, which means in the letter, if they give you the letter of audits, like our findings, we don't have unqualified because it's clean, something like that. But if it's qualified, in our findings, there are qualified findings, then they will put all the qualified findings in their audit. And in the adverse opinions, these are opinion, the finding is really adverse, that they'll give you all the problems. It's really adverse. And the disclaimer is, we found that the audit is clean. However, there are some disclaimers, something like that. Just that's the basic knowledge that that I learned from these questions before. So
Fair enough. Yeah, great input. Thank you, Michael. Let's go to the next one. Go ahead, Sir Olivia.
All right. So the purpose of the statement of operations or income statement is to, all right, so our first, present the financial position of the organization at a specific point in time. All right. So B, present the reasons net assets change from one period to another. Or C, present cash receipts and where they came from and cash disbursements and where they went during an accounting period. Or D, present the operating results of the organization over a period of time. So if we look at the first one, right, present the operating results of the organization over a period of time. So the statements of operation is also known as an income statement, right? So it shows the organization's revenue, expenses, gains, and losses during a defined accounting period. So whatever that is by your organization. And its primary purpose is to reveal how much income was generated. So if we looked at that, right, the statement of operations, and we look at that first option, and we look at kind of D, present the operating results of the organization over a period of time. So let me see what we have in the chat here. I think a lot of people
A
is
lot of A's.
all A's here. So I think presenting the results of the organization over a period of time. So D, right? The operating results. And the statement of operations is the income statement, right? And when we looked at that I read that a little bit to you guys. It shows the organization's revenue, expenses, gains, and losses over a period of time. So maybe the most likely answer here is D.
Yeah, think about balance sheet as one of those, and income from operations or income statement's another one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think the A is more of a balance sheet. But
Right.
go ahead. Let's D is income statement in this context.
Okay. Yeah. And someone said they were between A and D, and they think
Yeah, yeah. A is more of a balance sheet where B shows the net assets changed in the financial in the balance sheet, and D is income statement, which changes your net assets and other things related to that, but won't get too much more into it right now. Great. Next one.
Mm-hmm. I would say, Kevin, too, as
Go ahead.
Michael had mentioned in some of the others, they should probably study a little bit between a balance sheet, an income statement, statement of changes, because you might have questions. And I think those are more of your accounting principles in finance that if you're not a part of on a day-to-day basis, you may have to study a little bit more.
Yeah, statement of cash flows mentioned
Yeah.
earlier. So yeah, correct. Okay, ratios that measure an organization's long-term liquidity are called liquidity ratios, profitability ratios, capital structure ratios, efficiency ratios. This one is, yeah, interesting one. A lot of A's. You guys looks like you're matching the word liquidity up to the answers. Could be some good logic there. Sometimes you got to do that on the multiple choice. Let's see the answer here. Ooh, a little bit tricky there. Capital structure ratio as far as long-term liquidity. This one is a little bit difficult. Capital structure may be more of your bigger ticket items with your liquidity, a little bit more than your just cash flow and short-term assets. So the capital debt to equity question. Very good, very good. Jack, thank you for that input in the chat there.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Next question. Shalivia, take it on.
And just to mention in the other correct question, David, Kevin, I'm sorry, liquidity is short term. So if you could look up all of the terms within these options, you'll be able to kind of get to the core essence of why C, because it's long term. That's the key versus short term. So I just wanted to mention that. And if you study all these ratios, I would encourage you to look them all up and what they mean for the test. So I'm sorry if we can go back to
yeah, this finance is very, as Sherlivia said, is very heavy on a lot of financial terms, and this could, for some, depending on if you're an A student, as a lot of you guys may be, is really make or break maybe that pass fail on the first time you take it. So really, this could get you over the top if you really dig deep on this finance section.
Yeah, because to be perfectly honest, I had to go back and refresh my memory, right? Because if you're not in the core essence of all of these things, especially on the accounting side of it, you may not be exposed to all those terms. So 10, the purpose of the strategic financial plan is to, so just think about that. Look into the future 10 years to determine what the business will look like. B, translate the strategic plan into next year's objectives. C, convert the operating plan into monetary terms, or D, identify resources that will be necessary to accomplish the strategic plan. All right, so the strategic plan typically aligns financial resources, right, with the long-term strategic plans in the organization. So I kind of missed the responses in the chat. So D, yes. I would say D is the best answer here for this question, right? Okay, here we got the answer. So definitely, it identifies that leadership understands what funding, investments, and capitals will be needed to execute the strategy. So identifying the resources that's necessary to accomplish the strategic plan. So, and that can include your capital expenditures, your staffing, your service line expansions, your technology upgrades, but you need to identify what those resources are. All right. Anything else you would like to add
This
there?
is Michael. I would like to add. So
Okay.
don't be confused if you see these words in the exam, like a strategic financial plan. A strategic financial, that's the main strategic financial for the hospital. And there's also a strategic plan for IT. So those sometimes those three strategic planning processes can be confusing. So just need to make it sure that you know or you know how to delineate the differences on those.
All right, a zero-based plan or budget could best be described as starting each plan or budget cycle with a clean slate, adjusting expenses based on realized volumes, allowing unencumbered funds to be transferred to the next year, limiting department managers to only the expenses they control. I love this one because I've seen some A's. I'll just say after the COVID time, I'm like, gosh, you almost need to start this out with I'll say a clean slate with to really figure out what we're going to be going with expenses and a lot of volume coming out of some of the COVID stuff early 2020, 21, 22. But a lot of A's there. I think you guys are solid on the mark, starting each planning or budget cycle with a clean slate. And zero-based budgeting is tough. There's a lot of tough decisions if you're not looking at some trends, but a little combination maybe is good sometimes. But really, especially in those non-routine supply, purchase services and such, really maybe some zero-based budgeting or just a total clean slate, depending on what the situation is. But good job, guys, getting an A there on the A answer. All right, next question, Olivia. There you go.
All right. So managed care plans that exerts the most control over providers, therefore save the most money and provider payments are. So think about what the question is reading, right? So it has control kind of over providers and over costs, right? So you want to save money. So A, right? Your managed indemnity plans are B, your preferred provider organization, C, closed panel HMOs, or D, your point of service HMOs. So let's see. So a lot of people is saying A here for this particular question. I believe it may be more in line with their closed panel HMOs. Because if we looked at our closed panel HMOs, it has the tightest control over provider networks, right? So providers are typically employed directly by the HMO. So how do you control costs, right? You hire your providers, you control you negotiate those contract terms. You may even control where your patients are seen. So when I was reading this question here, I thought about the Kaiser Permanente network, right? When you see Kaiser, you go, everything is Kaiser, right? So I see them as a closed panel HMO, and that's kind of where this question. So you control you have that control over your providers, and therefore you save money in that provider payments. So what is the answer here? So yeah, C, it's the closed panel HMOs. And again, as we were saying with everything else, you want to look up all of these plans and kind of understand the differences between them all, because I think that's key when you're taking the exam here. And I'm not sure if Kevin or Michael, if you guys had anything additional you wanted to add here.
I
You said
wouldn't
it well
say, go
for
ahead,
me.
Michael. I'll just say, yeah, this isn't my expertise, but it sounds, yeah, definitely not the PPO, but closed panel HMO is the answer there. But this is one to really study those managed care plans a little bit, to understand it going into the tests would have some value. Next question. A productivity measure that takes into account the level of skill required to accomplish the task is hourly rate, paid hours per unit of service, scheduled hours per unit of service, labor compensation per unit of service. Wow, this one's fun. I'm trying to get this one. Productivity measure that takes into account the level of skill required to accomplish this. Hourly rate, probably not. Paid hours per unit of service. That takes into account the level scheduled hours, which is very similar to paid hours, and labor compensation per unit of service, which almost sounds like hourly rate to me. But people are saying question mark D, seeing some D's there. Paid hours per unit. Schedule. I'm almost leaning for B. I don't, this one's a tough one. Labor compensate them. Okay, let's see what we got here on the answer book. A lot of D's. D it is. You guys
Definitely.
are on it. Great
Yeah,
job.
yeah. Yeah, and I think the D, the labor compensation per unit of service is not only the amount of labor used, but also the cost of the labor
Yeah,
inherently, includes the skill level required.
exactly. Exactly. There you go. Because the hours is in it, the B of the hours is how many hours, not the dollar, the hourly rate to get that skill, which is if we underline the word skill required, you'd get to that D for that
Yeah.
total labor compensation. And
Yeah.
the
So if
hourly
I
rate's not getting the number of hours, but just the rate on, yeah. Perfect.
So yeah,
Great
if I
question.
may add, if I may add an example on that, for example, in a department, how many skill mix are there? So it's a labor compensation for the whole department. Like for example, the lab, we have the CLS, we have the lab assistants, we have the managers. So that is the labor compensation per unit of service. That's why it's a skill mix. You have to consider this skill mix of that department. So that's why
Yeah,
it
yeah.
says labor. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Yep. Perfect. Let's go to the next one. Q&A. I think we've got, let's just say, let's go this one. Finance and HR sample matrix. Can that get any bigger here? Maybe it's I could probably make it probably depends on everybody's screen. Or I gotta eliminate the chat here. This one's a little bit hard to read, but there's some things about like I'm looking at on my screen, total margin, some different ratios that you guys can study about. Net income over total revenue is your total margin, return on assets, net income over total assets equals return on assets, net income over total equity is return on equity. So it's pretty, if you see that, you got your net income as your numerator, and then on the denominator is going to kind of drive what that return is, except for the first one, the margin being on the revenue. Then your liquidity ratios, current assets over current liabilities. Total assets minus inventory over current liabilities. And days on cash on hand, that's a hot topic, cash on hand in a lot of health systems. Cash plus marketable securities, which is really your liquid cash divided by expenses minus depreciation minus provision for uncollectibles divided by 365. I think most understand what that means is like, if we shut the doors tomorrow and don't have any revenue, how many days can we run this place and pay our payroll, type of thing. And then here's some health laws, American Disabilities Act, which I think a lot of you may know about, just providing protection, no discrimination for qualified individuals with disability, et cetera, et cetera. And then applies to employers with more than 15 workers. That's a little disclaimer there. Started in 1990. Balanced Budget Act created Medicare Part C, which is different than Part A and B. Civil Rights Act. And is that it on this screen? I think it is. I'm sorry, I made my screen so big. Oh, there's one more that I can't see. The Clayton Act and the Omnibus Budget Reconciliation Act there. So definitely those are the kind of things you want to study up on a little bit. And we'll share this screen with you. But let's go to the next slide as well. Closing comments. Before we do that, we're going to do that in about 5 minutes. Let's go to the other questions for 5 minutes, and then we'll hop back into this closing comments here. If we can pull that other one up here. Maybe buzz through a few. Maybe not all of them, but we'll probably buzz through that for about 5 more minutes.
While waiting for the questions, may I remind that for the healthcare law, please remember that it's all federal. So drop your knowledge on California state. So the questions are all geared to federal law. So just an FYI.
Federal law, yeah, because it's a national test, so probably won't have much state stuff for sure. All right, I gotta shrink my screen here. Sorry, guys. Okay. A set of medical, we'll buzz through some of these like we did with Michael early on. A set of medical codes used to report medical, surgical, and diagnostic procedures and services is called a CPT. I'm just going to call that out. A DRG, ICD-10 codes, or SNOMED codes. Oh, there's a good one. What do you guys think about that? Medical codes used to report medical, surgical, okay, C, ICD-10. We're going to buzz through this quick. Answer is A, CPT.
Yeah.
Current procedural terminology. A. Oh, we got some A's there.
So just to give everybody the main difference, CPT is procedure. That's all that code set will do. A lot of people chose ICD-10. It doesn't say PCS or CM, right? So it really doesn't mean anything. PCS is the inpatient procedural coding, and then CM is the diagnosis procedural coding. So it's really not a good choice because it's not identifying it could capture a procedure if it had PCS behind it, which is the procedural classification system for inpatient. And then maybe, but without that, it just doesn't have meaning. So that's why A is the best between A and C, which was the two options given by the team.
Very, very good. Okay. I'll read this one. The process of converting the operating plan into budgets for capital expenditures. Operating revenue, capital budgeting, financial strategic plan. We talked about that earlier. Working capital. We've talked about most of this earlier. C. B, capital budget. Converting the operating plan into budgets for capital expenditures is capital budgeting. The financial strategic plan may be a little bit more broad in this context and may include a little bit of operations as well as maybe the capital in there. But this is more specific, and that's probably why that narrowed it down to that capital budgeting for that correct answer. All right, next question. Shirley, why don't you take that one? Shirley, you're on mute.
Oops, yes, it was on mute. Sorry. Print bill, submit bill, follow up on bill, and collect bill or bill resolution is called what here? So is that a part of our revenue cycle, operating, payment, or service? So right here, so I'm getting some options from the participants here of C. which C is your payment cycle. And that payment cycle usually refers to internal payroll cycle, not necessarily the kind of print bill, submit bill, which would be, I would say, more revenue cycle, right? Because it encompasses the entire financial process of the healthcare service delivery. So I would say maybe the likely answer here would be A.
Let's see it. There we go. Revenue cycle. Great job and explanation there. Let's move on. Next one. Resources that an organization expects to consume within 1 year. That's short term almost. 1 year. Non-current assets, deferred revenue, current liabilities, current assets. Resources within 1 year. C, to current liabilities. C. Oh, wow. Current expects to consume. Deferred non-current assets is more long-term. Current assets. Okay, let's see the answer on this one. I'm thinking current assets, yes. So your current assets includes like your cash, maybe a lot of your liquid stuff, which you'd consume within 1 year. Non-current assets may be longer term stuff. Deferred revenue, that's a whole nother thing where you receive revenue now for the next year. Current liabilities is, what's your pay liability, such as a payroll or something, and or accounts payable or something. So yeah, that's the answer. Current assets. You're going to consume your cash within a year. That kind of goes back to that liquidity. All right, let's go to the next question. Thanks, Jack. Yeah, consume makes it tricky. Consume that. I would mirror, as I said, liquidity with consumed. Accumulated depreciation is reported on the, and Shirlivy mentioned this earlier, and I'm just going to jump in, the statement of operations, balance sheet, statement of changes in net assets, and statement of cash flows. C, I'm seeing. Think about where your assets are, and how you depreciate them, and your current your, as of a period of time, what your overall balance sheet is. Where would that be? All right, I'm not seeing am I missing the chat here? All right, so let's jump into the answer. I'm going to be shooting for balance sheet. There we go. I'm sorry, I've been around balance sheets too much in my past life. And only good job, Enzo, with that answer. Or wait, that was previously. I'm catching up with the answer. We had that one. Cindy got that one. Great job, Cindy, on that one. All right, let's move on to the next one. And Shirley, why don't you take that one? And then we're gonna have to close this up soon, though. Last one, Shirley, and then we're gonna go to the closing comments.
All right, last one. Okay, so for information on net cash flows for providing health services for a specific time frame, the decision maker should use D. All right, so an income statement, balance sheet, statement of retained earnings, or statement of cash flow, right? So again, for information on net cash flow, right? So yes, so I'm seeing some D's, and I would say D, statement of cash flow, is the answer because it shows how cash moves in and out in an organization over a specific period of time. So let's see, is the answer. What's the answer? D. We saying D. Yes. So we all got that correct here. So thank you, everyone. I think we're close to time, right, Kelly?
Well, let's do one more. One more.
Okay.
We'll do one more.
I think that was the last one.
Is that the last one? Did we get them?
So yeah. So
Yeah, that was the last one.
That is all right. Let's go to the closing comments. We did well, guys. Good job with timing. Next, let's go back to the closing section, please. As we bring this up, thank you everybody for sitting through on this beautiful Saturday. And for some of you, maybe it's wind, maybe sun. All right, closing comments. So as we are approaching the end of this, here's a few quick notes here. Be sure to read and reread each question carefully. You've really seen some of the ways and the trickiness of these questions. I mean, we've all done multiple choice questions in our lifetime, and this one's takes a good 6 to 8 hours, if I remember correctly. It's been a while since I've taken it, but about 10, 12 years ago. Try reading the questions backward to catch keywords. Read all responses for each question before selecting an answer. Read each of the opinions. Jack left is come back. Read each of the options as true or false. Mark only one answer. Multiple answers are invalid. There's no added penalty for guessing. So answer every question, or you take that 25% probability risk if you don't know the answer and it's tricky. And skip difficult questions and return to them later. Remember to pick only one. The computerized exam allows you to mark questions to go back. So you'll have that option to go back later on that little electronic system. Computers are so amazing what they can do nowadays. Do not go back and change your answer. Your first hunch is most often right. Any questions on this? This is just basic multiple choice test taking. The most inclusive answer is usually the correct answer. We've definitely seen that. However, the most specific answer is usually correct when the question includes a qualifier such as is not, all but. The question includes absolute words such as always, never, only. And I'm going to go back to Michael's earlier statement. The exam is national in scope and is not defined by individual states and their laws or regulations. Evaluate questions from a general healthcare management perspective. The correct responses will apply equally to all healthcare organizations, regardless of type, size, or location. Take a minute or two to regroup, refresh, and refocus and breathe. I know this is stressful. It's a long day. You're studying. You just want to. The amazing thing is you push the button and it's real-time feedback. At least it was when I took it. And it just tells you if you passed or failed. And I think if you guys put the effort into it, a lot of you guys will do pretty well. Next slide, please. Okay. The score is cumulative. You might be stronger in some areas than others. You don't have to master all the knowledge areas to pass the test. I will say that finance helped me back in the day pass. I wouldn't have if I didn't do so well. That was my strength at the time for sure. Remember to take the ACHE Healthcare Executive 2024. It's probably 2025. May not have updated self-assessment tool. So we'll send this out to you guys, but it's on this site. Which kind of gives you, gives some background on different competencies, which is important in the test taken as well. A lot of the stuff, most of the stuff we've covered throughout the last 5 weeks. Next. Consider starting joining a study group. I know when I did this a long time ago, I had somebody hand me some books and I didn't do a study group, but there's definitely things have changed a lot. So there's probably those options. I don't have great recommendations. Does anyone have any recommendations? Or Michael, do you know, have you done no study groups of this?
No, we don't. That we tried to create before, but we were not successful.
Yeah. And I was just talking to Nikhil about just last week about some things we may look into in the future. But yeah, it's tough just with everybody's time, just to get people on this one. We can provide the registration email list. Please let me know if you want your contact information shared. I take advantage of ACHE and local chapter virtual program to meet face-to-face and qualified at credit hours. I think you guys know, and we went through that the first session of the requirements to become a fellow. There's a lot in the chat, so I just want to let's go to the next slide as we look at the chat. Is there anything that we should be reading in the chat?
Kevin, yes. Sean was asking if they were going to receive the slides and the record and for each session, and I did tell him you usually send that out after each session, right?
Yeah, we have been sending that out for sure to I mean, Sean, were you there was 1 or 2 late add-ons. Sean, I can't remember if you were, but we definitely send all the recordings out, and we send most of the slides out as well. So we'll be doing. I'll probably get that out maybe by Sunday or Monday at the latest. From this session. Here, if you didn't get enough and have enough fun here, a little bit more money than this. I will say this is one of the best values that we in the country for this test taking, for the value that you're paying, even compared to other state, local board of governors exam reviews. I've looked at them recently, but this is a national level. If you need more test skills, if you're concerned, 14 you get 14 ACHE virtual interactive education credits, which is great too. You're not getting that virtual interactive with this because it's not sponsored by the national level, but it costs more. But this one just started. It said this week if you go online, but really I looked in, the first one is on Monday. If you go to ACHE, the website, and look for type BOG in the subject, you will start on Monday. And I think you can get in still if you sign up right now. And if I'm wrong, I apologize, but I literally looked at it. It starts like Monday. And I see some more in the chat room, and that's kind of Sean, why don't you email me back the ones you didn't get to the CAHL advancement email? Just say I got 3, 4, I didn't get 1, 2. Just email me and I'll get that to you in the next 48 hours. Next slide, please. Okay, here's the situation. We are offering for, I probably can't offer it. People on the national, I mean, we could possibly, if you want to, we're going to send it and send it back. It's a little tricky if you're out of state. I know we have a few out of staters, so thank you so much for coming to our 46, 7 state county, whatever we are for CAHL here. I just purchased, and they're going to be coming any day. Board of Governors exam flashcards. We had some older editions, the 9th edition financial management, which has a lot of that terminology we went to today. Managed healthcare organizations, some stuff we did. HR, we did a couple weeks ago. IT as well. I think Olivia led the second week, if I remember correctly. You can email that CAHL advancement if you're ready to take the test in the near future. Don't tell me if you're not ready or you're not ready to take it. And I'm going to figure out the logistics. And the logistics I'll just tell you is, hey, meet me in Fairfield or Santa Rosa or wherever it is. And then you're going to have to pass it on the next person, possibly. We'll figure it out case by case. But these are expensive books. It was $395 each. But we bought them as a chapter to share with the people who are on this. And so reach out to me via that email, and then we will figure out how to pass it. I don't have it in hand today. I'm sure I'll have it within a week. Okay? Just want to get the latest editions here as we're finishing this up. Next slide, please. And finally, keep us posted on your progress and contact if you have any questions or need assistance. Once you've taken the exam, we will welcome you to participate in future Board of Governor exam prep webinars. If you want to be part of the faculty and you enjoyed learning from us, we'd love to have you teach for us. And we may do some other things as well. And we'd love to highlight you on our wall of fame. And as you pass the test, you'll be highlighted in our newsletter. If you're part of the CAHL chapter, if you're out of state, hopefully your chapter will recognize you there. And more to come on that. And in the near future, I think by Monday, Tuesday at the latest, you'll probably get a Survey Monkey. And please share your feedback on how it went. And we'd love to hear your feedback so we can do a better job. This is a volunteer organization, and a lot of people put their time into it, from Mary, and thank you to Mary and Olivia and Jaime in the background, and Michael and Laura and Grace, and I'm thinking who else is in there. I'm missing one. The gentleman,
Richard.
Rick, who's done a lot of work. And thank you to everybody who's put this all together. You guys are dynamite, and we could have done it with the volunteers. And thank you for everybody who participated in this, and we wish you well to become part of the exclusive club of a Fellow of American College of Healthcare Executives, which is a well-recognized fellowship in the worldwide. So you'll be very proud to be getting that. And if you get it, you can choose to graduate and go to Congress, which was just in Houston, or you can just get it and be grateful to acknowledge those letters after your name. So any questions as we close with 1 minute to go? Olivia, Jaime, or Michael, any closing statements?
No,
Okay.
I enjoyed it, and thanks for everyone who showed up and participated.
Thank you, everybody. Sorry for the going too fast on some of the slides, but it's been great supporting this organization and helping support the exam prep.
Very good. Very good. Awesome, everybody. Enjoy your Saturday wherever and whatever you're doing. Enjoy the weekend. You'll get some Saturdays off for a little bit, but study hard, focus, and you'll all pass. Good luck and take care. Thank you.